to Sakshi TV Special Immigration Show with attorney Ms. Prashanthi Reddy from Law Offices of Prashanthi Reddy, PLCC. Please note that, hello Ms. Reddy, how are you? I hope you're really doing great. Welcome to our show today.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am doing well, Shivani. Hope you're well also. And the visa bulletin was just published like half an hour ago. So I'll be giving you those updates as well.
Yes. So, Ms. Prashanthi, let's start up with our topic today. So, can you give us any new recent updates that have been published?
Yeah, so as I said, the visa bulletin was just published. So there is a whole lot of information. There is some information which is very important to a lot of people who have been waiting for their green card numbers for a while. But let's start off with what to expect for the rest of September, because we know the September visa bulletin was out and the dates have been given, but we also got access to another document which was given to District Judge Thomas and was given by Andrew Parker, basically an employee of the Department of State, explaining the visa numbers that continue to be available for the month of September. We know that in the month of October, the new fiscal year starts. So we're talking about the end of the fiscal year, and the end of the fiscal year ends on the last day of September. Just to give a short background, there are only a certain number of visa numbers allotted, employment-based as well as family-based visa numbers allotted every year. Out of that, each country gets 7% of the available visa numbers. So the overall limits, they have their overall limits. So that's 140,000 is the overall limit, plus the number of unused visa numbers. So there's been a limit for 2022. We've had double the amount of visas that are normally available. So the number that was not used by the family visa numbers came to the employment-based numbers, as a result of which, our annual limit moved from 140,000 to 281,000. So we had double the amount of visa numbers available for the month, for the year 2022. Now, out of these 281,507 numbers, 7% are allotted to each country. So we're concerned about Indian nationals because, that's mostly who's watching the show. So the Indian nationals receive 7.1% of the overall numbers. And these numbers are split, remember, based on the 5 employment-based categories. And each employment-based category gets about 28.6%. Out of all that 280,000, 28% goes to EB1, 28% EB2, EB3, and so on and so forth. And out of that, 7% will go to Indian nationals. So as I just said, of course, there is, even though there is a country quota, so every country cannot get more than 7%. What happens is, if the family-based cases are not used up, and if there is excess numbers available in either of the employment-based cases or in the family-based cases, they'll go to the next case. So, for example, if in EB1 all the visa numbers are not allotted or not used, and the visas exceed the demand, then those numbers fall over into the EB2 category, and then so on and so forth. Then the EB2 category excess numbers fall into EB3, EB4, and EB5. That's what usually happens. And also, not only that, there is a fall down that happens between employment-based cases, but also between unused family-based cases and employment-based cases. So even though India will only get 7.1% of the total, if there is a fall down or a fall up, as has been happening since COVID has started, Indian nationals have actually been getting much more than 7% as a result of that. It's helped to a certain extent, but it's still, it's obviously not still ideal. We still have thousands of people literally waiting for years and years, Indian nationals waiting for years and years to get a green card. So just to give you an idea of the numbers this year, the Indian nationals used over 50% of the EB1 visas, the excess visas, that is, after all other countries have used it. And 47% of the extra visas in EB2 went to Indians, and out of the EB3 excess visas, 27% have been used by Indian nationals. So you can see that even though the availability is 7%, much more get used by Indian nationals because of the excess amount, because no other nationals are using it, and it's pretty much, for all of the nationals, it's the visa categories are current except for China. So this is a kind of an oversimplified explanation of, how the visa numbers work and, what happens every year. So that's about the visa numbers. But with reference to, establishing a final action date, the way the dates are decided is, say there are 3,000 numbers available for China. Remember, they get 7% of the total. Then USCIS and DOS say has a demand for about 8,000 numbers, meaning that 8,000 applications have been filed and only 3,000 visa numbers are available. Then what will happen is the Department of State will establish a cutoff date so that only 3,000 people can get the visa numbers that year, and so the 3,001st applicant will be cut off. So that's an explanation of how the cutoff date is established and what the final action date means in a visa bulletin. So if your final action date is current, so that means if your label cert has been filed on the date that is the final action date on the visa bulletin, then you can go ahead and file your 485, otherwise you cannot. So that's a little bit about, the cutoff dates, the final action dates, etc. Now coming to the dates that were actually used, this is very interesting. Based on what USCIS is saying for the year 2022, they have estimated that Indian nationals received about 12,700 visa numbers in total. And so far, 12,460 have been used. So there's still only 240 visas remaining, and they have about 24,700 cases remaining for this fiscal year as of September 6th. So you can see that those 24,000 unlucky people, only out of the 24,700 people, only 240 people are going to get it by the end of September. So the 240 estimated remaining numbers was as of August 31st. So as of September 6th or September 7th, which is today, maybe those 240 have already been used up. So you can see there are about 24,000 people still remaining in the queue with the same priority dates, but have not been lucky enough because USCIS was, even though USCIS this year tried to adjudicate the maximum number of cases, there's still more petitions filed than there are visas available. So the 24,000 are the ones that got left out, this year. So what to expect for the rest of September? So I don't think, more visa numbers will be allotted. Let's wait and see until the end of September. There's always hope, but it looks like, based on this document that was submitted to the district court, most of the visa numbers have been used up for the month of September. So India got, for the entire year, they got about 60,000, and the visas used up by 57,000. This is, for example, the projected annual limit for EB to India. This is the inventories. Inventory remaining, as we discussed, was 2,786 only, and then they used up most of those. So there are only 240 remaining. So what to expect? While USCIS and DOS have used up all the EB2 visas for year 2020, most probably, I'm sorry, is there, I think there's a problem with my video. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. For some reason, the video
Mhm.
got turned off.
Yeah.
They'll most probably use all the available visa numbers and there won't be many left. So the document continues to say the same thing. We don't know if a new September visa bulletin will be released. Most probably not. But to get an estimate of what might happen moving forward, well, we don't have to estimate that anymore. While I was preparing my presentation, I had an estimate, but just an hour ago, the new October visa bulletin has come out, and we were expecting that it will retrogress, but I wasn't expecting to it to retrogress so much. So basically, EB2 for final action date has retrogressed by 2 years and 8 months. So they're working on 2012 April, I believe. EB3, the good news, slightly good news, has moved forward by 2 months. Same thing with dates for filing. For all those who don't know, dates for filing don't actually give you a green card, but they allow you to file the 485 because USCIS hopes that your dates will soon become current. So they're allowing you to file in advance. So for the dates for filing, also EB2 has retrogressed by about 2 years and 7 months, just a difference of 1 month. And EB3 also has moved forward slightly. So all in all, forward movement by 2 months for EB3. And so this is again reversing the roles. It's like a seesaw. I don't know when it'll ever end. So now everybody who just in 2022, all those who downgraded, then upgraded last year and the beginning of this year, and now they'll have to be downgrading again. So it's just a ridiculous situation that we're in because they're now saying that EB3, we've already seen some forward movement, and we don't know what to expect for the future, but most probably EB3 will move forward and EB2 will retrogress. So it's a seesaw, and this is what has been happening with the priority dates. Do we have a caller?
I think we do have a caller. Can I just connect? I'll just connect that.
Sure.
I think yes, we do have a
You
caller.
can feel free to interrupt me if we have a caller.
Yes, definitely. Well,
Hello.
Hello, hi. You can ask your question.
Yes. Yes. Hi, I'm Crystal, and I'm calling from Bangalore. I work in an IT company, and I would like to apply for H1 visa, and I would like to know the process. Can you kindly guide me, like how should I apply for it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if in order to file for a H1, you have to wait until your the next year the H1B numbers, cap numbers to open up next year, as they are closed this year. They usually open up in March or April of every year, and then your company will have to register, and then based on the registrations they receive, they will conduct a lottery. And if your number gets picked in the lottery, this year very few numbers got picked in the lottery because there were 480,000 or 400 plus thousand applications filed and only 85,000 applications available for the H1. So if your number does get picked in the lottery, then obviously you can then file your H1. You would have to have a job offer in the US. Your company has to show where you'll be working, which client you'll be working for, submit a purchase order, client letter, and then they will file the I-129 petition, the LCA, the I-129 petition. And if you file premium, you'll get a decision in about 30 days, sorry. And you'll be able to start work if your H1 gets approved in October of next year. So unless, of course, the cap doesn't apply if you work for a cap exempt organization, you're able to find a cap exempt organization to sponsor you or to give you a job. Then, of course, you can file anytime.
Yes. Thank you so much, caller, for calling us. Another question that I had, Prashanthi, was that a lot of people get confused with this simple term, where they think that they can go to, USA, and then, even though they don't have a job offer, they think that they can get settled down. Now, do you think that process is easy? Because I've seen a lot of comments coming on. So what are your views on this?
No, it's definitely not an easy process because you have to jump through all these hoops and hurdles and regulations, um, and filing dates. You have to navigate so many things. You have to meet the requirements. So as I said, in order to file a H1, first of all, there are very few work visas that are really available for Indian nationals. The two work visas available is either the L1 or a H1, and there are certain requirements that you have to meet to file either. For a H1, you have to show that you're working in a specialty occupation. That means an occupation that requires a minimum of a bachelor's degree. For an L1, depending on what kind of L1 it is, you have to show that either you have specialized knowledge in a product or process of the company, or that you are working as a multinational executive and you meet those requirements. So yeah, there's no easy answer to it. It just depends on many factors. So it's
Yes.
important to get a lawyer to navigate those factors for you.
Yes. Another question that I had for you was, what will happen to the pending I-485 cases if the visa number should retrogress? Like, will EAD or an AP continue to be issued?
Right, as we saw that the visa numbers actually have retrogressed, and as we see that they have retrogressed quite badly because, right, I mean, as of September, the visa bulletin, the priority date for EB2 is December 2014, and now I believe it's April 2012, so 2 years and 8 months EB2 has retrogressed. And the reason for this is because, of course, there's more demand. And more importantly, this year, like I was telling you earlier, I was explaining the process as to how the final action date is decided. There are only a certain number of green cards allotted every year, right? And this year, there were double the amount of green cards available, and last year as well. Last year, the government didn't do a great job using all those numbers. This year, they did a better job using the numbers. So we saw a lot of people got their green cards. Nevertheless, what's happening with this year now, starting from next month, is there may not be an overflow of the family-based numbers into the employment-based category. So all those extra numbers that you are seeing were from the family-based categories because the consulates were closed, because of COVID, because of shortage of staff, because of financial shortages. The consulates abroad were not processing family-based cases. But this year they have started processing those family-based cases, and in 6 months they've processed more cases than they processed in the entire year of 2021. So you can see that they've started processing them normally or almost normally. So they're using up all those visa numbers, and therefore now you don't have that availability of visa numbers, excess availability of visa numbers. It's come back to square one. So it's retrogressed to before COVID dates. So you won't see that forward movement. So obviously, as you were asking, a lot of cases are pending. Like we saw that 24,000 petitions have not been approved because visa numbers are now no longer available. And those 24,000 plus the many more numbers that are going to be filed. And of course, 24,000 are not the only cases that are pending. There are other cases that were retrogressed earlier. So there are thousands of applications pending. So all these numbers, it all boils down to one thing, that people have been waiting for years and years for their visa numbers to become available. They seem to become available for a short period of time. There was hope that they would finally get their green cards, but their hopes have again been dashed to the ground. And it's very sad because some have gotten it, some have not, even though their priority dates are the same. It's extremely pathetic situation which can only be corrected through legislation, but unfortunately our government or our legislatures don't have the will to and can't stop fighting amongst themselves in order to make any new legislation. So this is what's happening. But with reference to the pending cases, they'll remain pending. So if you've already filed a 485, if your child, if you file based on final action date, if your child has aged out, they will still continue to be considered for the 485 and will still get their green card at some point. So that doesn't change. But if you, for the date, the age of the child is not fixed if you file based on dates for filing, unless it became current after that at some point. If it became current based on the final action date, then that age gets fixed, that day when it became current based on final action date. But with reference to issuance of EADs and advanced paroles, EADs and advanced paroles will continue to be issued, even though your 485 is now backlogged. So you'll continue to be on a pending 485 status. You can use AC21 to change employers as long as it's been 6 months since the 485 has been filed and your I-140 is approved. So there's not a lot of, it doesn't affect you in the sense that you don't lose your 485, but of course then there's a longer wait for you to actually get your green card. But you can continue to change employers as long as you meet the requirements of AC21 and, travel and age out regulations will not affect you.
Yes. Finally, Ms. Prashanthi, I want to ask about what are some of the latest guidance rules that the USCIS has given on STEM O1 visas. So what are they?
Oh, Shivani, I don't think we'll have the time to do that.
But maybe, give us some head points, maybe.
So, yeah, so just very quickly, and this is a preview of what we'll do next week,
Definitely.
unless there's something more interesting that comes up next week.
Definitely.
So because of all this happening, the H-1B numbers getting over, USCIS has recently issued some guidance explaining how they adjudicate O1 visas. So as per, and they gave an emphasis, they put an emphasis on STEM cases, science, technology, engineering, and math. So they're encouraging people, it looks like, to file O1 cases in lieu of a H1, and they're saying, look, you may think that you don't have the extraordinary ability to qualify for an O1, but you just might. So, give it another look. And they gave us some examples and some guidance as to what officers look at so that even the lawyers can, file O1 cases without thinking that, oh my God, this person doesn't have a Nobel Prize, so most probably he won't qualify. It's not, they're explaining that you don't have to, have a Nobel Prize to qualify for an O1.
Yes. Also, Ms. Prashanthi, another question that I had was that this question was something in the comments that I've read. So this question was, these people were talking about how changing employees can help. Can you just explain in detail that how does changing employees help in getting closer to green card? Is that true or is it just a myth?
Oh, so changing employers doesn't really help in getting a green card because it's very sad because it's not just visa number availability that guides whether you get a green card or not. Of course, it's that, but it also seems to be luck because there are some people who have gotten it with the same priority date or a priority date that is ahead of the numbers that are currently running, and there are some people who have not. So how do you explain that? It's just luck. Maybe somebody's case is stuck with some officer that's lazy, or who knows, or at some service center where they have not moved the case to NBC, or unfortunately their I-140 remains pending, so they were not able to adjudicate the 485, or just plain inability of USCIS to adjudicate all the cases, even the ones that had priority dates current, because there were still more cases left over when compared to the visa numbers that were available.
Yes.
So I don't know, maybe it's a combination of things.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Prashanthi Reddy, for joining. Next week, let us discuss about the O1 visas. I think it's going to be a very interesting episode. Thank you again for joining. Thank you for the viewers for tuning in. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.